From American Falls to Malad, we've got the biggest stories in District 5 covered. This is the Southeast Idaho Prepcast with Jordan Kaye.
That's right. It's another edition of the Southeast Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down everything in District 5 in the state of Idaho. Brandon Baney with Jordan Kaye from the Idaho State Journal in Pocatello. Jordan, what's going on?
Not much. Getting ready for our two championship games.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be one Thursday, one Friday, late nights for both of us, both those nights.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of whoever at the IHSA decided to schedule these things at, practically midnight, but I guess it's better than nothing.
Yeah. The games, the late games, Thursday and Friday kick off at 9:00 and I believe 8:30 respectively. So it's like, man, that's tough. Tough sledding for, well, you're used to being up late,
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't really bother me a whole lot, but if I could have the story done by 9 p.m. instead of midnight, that would be kind of fun. But
what's the cutoff for what makes print and what goes just on the web?
10 usually.
Okay.
So luckily we don't have a paper on Friday, so or Saturday paper, so the Highland kind of doesn't matter what time it gets over. There's no print deadline that night, so that helps a lot. But the West Side one will be tough.
Yes. So that Highland recap will go on the Sunday paper.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
Yes.
So of course I never know what the schedule is for the hard copy of the paper because I just read it online. I just go to IdahoStateJournal.com and read it there. So time, it has no concept to me on the web, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yep. All right. Well, before we get to breaking down what's going on football wise, we're in the final week of the football season. The championships are upon us. Did want to make a quick note that this is going to be the last podcast we do that is strictly District 5 focused. So as we get to the end of the fall sports season and we start to transition into the winter months, you've got a lot on your plate. I've got a lot on my plate. I'm doing 8 podcasts a week across the state of Idaho. It's nuts, dude. So we sat down, my boss and I, and we thought, what's a way to make things easier for me, and so my family can see me more, because I'm a stranger at this point. So one of the ideas we had was, well, districts 5 and 6 really play each other a lot. There's a lot of crossover between those two districts anyways. And in some classifications, they actually belong to the same conference, right? In the 1As and the 5As.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be natural to just merge the Southeast Idaho Prepcast, which is our District 5 podcast, with the East Idaho Prepcast, which is our District 6 podcast. So you will still get that District 5 content. It'll just be mixed in with the District 6 stuff, which is fine because you're seeing those teams a lot anyways.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what we're going to do is kind of split things up, right? Sometimes we'll have Jordan on. Sometimes we will have Lance on. Taylor is our co-host on the District 6 podcast. And so you're still going to get that good content and that entertainment. It's just going to be, it's not going to be every week that I'm on here with Jordan, and it's not going to be just District 5 anymore. It's going to be Districts 5 and 6, but you're still getting the same content.
Sweet.
Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. And also another note, I didn't talk about this prior to hopping on, Jordan, but next week it's Thanksgiving. I'm taking the week off. I'm not doing any podcasts because, man, it's a nice point for us. We've been doing this every week since August. If you think about it, how crazy.
Yeah. I never broke it down that far.
Yeah. So it's going to be nice to get a break and kind of reset for the holiday of Thanksgiving, and then we'll come back in 2 weeks and start talking about winter sports and things like that. Jordan, do you have Thanksgiving plans? Do you get to go back home?
No, not going to go back home. I'm not sure exactly what we'll be doing yet, but something with turkey and ham. That's all I know.
Okay, you and the roommate going to cook something up, or
possible? Yeah, that's what we did last year. They gave out a free turkey if you spent $100 at Winco. I was like, heck yeah.
Dude, that's hard because Winco's prices are pretty cheap. So you really got to buy a lot of stuff to get to
I buy for a month. I go once a month.
There you go. Get all your supplies at Winco for sure.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, Thanksgiving, we'll take the week off. We'll come back in 2 weeks as the East Idaho Prepcast, talking about both districts 5 and 6. So for the final week here, let's break down District 5 only. Let's start at the 4A level because a couple of teams in your coverage area, Blackfoot technically is District 6, but you cover them in the paper. They fell in a heartbreaking fashion. Pocatello also lost in heartbreaking fashion. Pocatello lost to Skyline 36-31. Blackfoot lost to Sandpoint in overtime 29-28. And again, this just kind of confirmed what we knew all year. 4A is wild and unpredictable, and any team is capable of winning on any night.
Yeah, because I think it's just so unfortunate, like Blackfoot. I think if you go back, I mean, this is like their third or fourth time of the year losing by 1 point. I mean, just kind of a brutal, heartbreaking way to lose like that. And then Pocatello gets out to such a great start. They pick off the first play of the game, get a field goal, then a touchdown on their next drive. They're up 11-0 right out of the gate. It seemed like, oh my gosh, like they're going to cruise into the state title game. This is going to be the quickest game of all time. And then, credit to Skyline. They kind of found their footing a little bit. They started getting the ball into the hands of their playmakers. That wide receiver they've got, Kaye and Sadiq, made some just fantastic catches, despite, a lot of Pocatello, DBs being on him in pretty tight coverage. He found ways to get catches, whether it be, jump balls in the end zone or whatever. And so, it was kind of a weird 2 games for the 4A schools in our coverage area. Just both of them for a little bit seemed like they were just going to kind of roll to the state title game at Holt Arena, and then all of a sudden kind of slipped there at the end.
Yeah, that Skyline game, it was interesting in the first half. All it took really was 1 3-and-out from Pocatello to get the ball into Skyline's hands. And from there, Skyline really dictated the tempo of the game, right? That second quarter, they rattled off a couple of unanswered scores.
Yeah.
And from there, Pocatello kind of matched them score for score and just ran out of time at the end. It was crazy the first half, the time of possession. I mean, Skyline had to have dominated it. I counted up the plays at halftime. Skyline had run like 32 plays and Pocatello had run like 15. Yeah. Because one of them was that 80-yard touchdown bomb to Julian Bowie.
Yep.
And so I think that was the problem, is Pocatello's offense was great. They just never got into that rhythm because they were either scoring too quickly or just didn't have the ball enough.
And Skyline's offense, I mean, give them a ton of credit. There were so many times when Pocatello had them pinned in some really bad down and distances and would get them into these, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 type situations, or 4th and 1, 4th and 2. And Skyline just kept converting. They kept marching down the field. They kept not allowing Pocatello's offense to get the ball. And, when you do that, Skyline was just able to get into a rhythm that Pocatello could never match. And so you get a couple scores like that on long drives, and then Pocatello gets a quick 3-and-out. And it just felt like, Pocatello never had the ball in that second quarter. And all of a sudden you look up at the halftime scoreboard and Skyline's leading. And it was just a kind of crazy how quickly things flipped in that game. And you knew coming out in the second half, the Thunder were kind of going to give their best shot, but when Skyline just keeps scoring on some of these crazy plays, Pocatello needed to do more than just match them, and they could never kind of get that, big score, big turnover.
Kaye and Sadiq made 2 ridiculous touchdown grabs. The first one was with Pocatello committing pass interference, and the guy basically draped over his shoulder. As he's falling to his back, he makes the grab. The second one, you can't play better coverage. I think it was Crew Hales that was in coverage, right?
Yeah.
It was in the back of the end zone, and Sadiq just extended up and caught it. And there's just nothing you can do about that.
No. And I think they knew that. They did have opportunities, though, in that, 3rd and 4th quarter to really kind of flip the momentum. Because, I mean, Pocatello gets the ball to start the third quarter and, just couldn't get the score they needed. You get a score there, all of a sudden the momentum flips, and they couldn't do that. And all season long, we've seen Pocatello in these tough spots come up with big turnovers, get an interception here, a fumble there, and that just did not come for them. And credit to Skyline for kind of keeping it out of their hands, but that's what Pocatello has done all season and what they weren't able to do on Saturday.
And for Blackfoot, they traveled up to Sandpoint, lost 29-28 in overtime when Sandpoint goes for 2 in the win. If I'm Coach Ackley, I'm trying to outlaw the 2-point conversion going into next season, because they lost 4 games on 2-point conversions this year.
Was it 4?
Yeah, they twice. Blackfoot went for 2 and didn't get it. and ended up losing. And then twice their opponents went for 2 and got it.
Yeah. I mean, they've got to be close to setting a record for most times losing by 1 point. Like I bet their score differential is just fantastic for what a 4 or 5 loss team. Just a kind of a rough way to lose, but I give a ton of props to what Coach Ackley did with that Blackfoot program. I mean, he took over a couple years ago for, a coaching legend, really kind of had to build that program back up, and has just kind of found a way to maximize the athletic talent that Blackfoot somehow has, like, year after year. I mean, you got guys like Austin Ramirez at running back and Javante King at wide receiver, and they find ways to put the ball in their hands. Give a lot of credit to them. I don't think anyone really thought they were going to make the run they did, and it kind of sets them up for the future of, doing something really big. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about, despite Blackfoot and Pocatello losing, I mean, both those programs are not really senior laden a ton. I mean, they are. They've got the guys that are, the playmakers who are in their final year, but they've got a ton of sophomores and juniors, and guys who are going to come back next year. And so if Pocatello and Blackfoot make it back here next year, I don't think anyone would really be surprised.
Yeah, definitely not. Not large senior classes, but impactful, right? They're losing some impact guys. But
yeah, I definitely for Pocatello. I mean, Hunter Killian at linebacker, Jackson Williams in the trenches, Matt Christensen at DB and wide receiver, and a couple other guys, Ryan Payne at quarterback. I mean, they do have to replace a lot, but you look around and I think Pocatello was starting like 7 sophomores, a number of juniors like Crew Hales, who you're talking about. They're not going to have necessarily the lack of experience that a lot of teams can have after a big title or semifinal run like this.
Yeah, so I agree. Future bright for both of those programs. The future in 5A, at least for now, looks like it's going to be East Idaho. I don't think the teams over in the Boise area really gave either Rigby or Highland much of a chance.
No.
And now, as we look at the 5A bracket, we've got an all-East showdown. I mean, what a wild night of football, Jordan, Friday night. You had so I was at the West Side game, which kicked off at 6:00.
Yeah.
So it ended early. I got home in time to basically do a red zone type thing where, okay, I'm listening to Highland play Eagle, and Ian Hershey wins on a walk-off field goal. Okay, well, then I switch over to Rigby and Meridian, and that's in triple overtime, and Rigby gets the win. And then I was able to switch over to Sandpoint and Blackfoot because they were an hour behind us in the Pacific time zone, and that game's in overtime. It was a wild night of football. Everybody that I've talked to said it's the best night of football in Idaho that they can remember.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of crazy because I knew someone at the Meridian game, and so I was getting text updates on every score, and it was just like constant. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening? The crazy thing too is it seemed like the Highland game, it's not like it was flying by, yet I watched Ian Hershey's field goal, closed my computer, did all that, went down to the field, did interviews with like 5 people, and then walked over to another guy there's like a group huddled around him, and they're holding up a phone like it's 1940, listening on the radio to the Rigby game, and you're just like, what is happening right now? They're like, it's in double overtime, it's in triple overtime, and kind of doing the play-by-play for everyone. And it's just like, I don't remember the last time. I don't think I've ever seen that in Idaho. I don't know if I've ever seen that kind of a high school night like that where things are happening minute by minute, second by second. It was just so cool to see kind of this team celebrating their victory, but then also like trying to get information on a game that's happening like 10 miles away. It was a really cool experience. And I was already back up in the press box, like writing by the time I heard Rigby won. I mean, it just seemed like a game that was never going to end. And I don't think the Highland coaches really cared, but they were, trying to get information, looking on Idaho Sports and stuff like that. It was really cool.
Yeah, I think my experience was similar to a lot of fans where, okay, we tuned into this Highland game. It got over. Oh, Rigby's still playing. Let me check it out. Blackfoot's still playing. So it was a lot of fun. It was a really wild night. So yeah, you were at the Highland game.
Yeah.
Give us the breakdown. The Rams advance 29-27, 28-26. The score's escaping me.
29-27, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And, Ian Hershey wins it on a field goal as time expires, but give us the breakdown of that game.
Yeah, so, Highland kind of comes out. Their offense looks really good. I mean, they were running the ball super effectively with, Eli Parrish and kind of mixing in Jackson Riddle, who's this sophomore. And I just don't know if why, we've talked about him or I have, how good he's been for them. Kind of because he came on in the middle of the season. He was this sophomore who transferred from Utah. And then I think he was injured for a little bit playing on JV. And then they had some injuries and called him up. And the dude was just lights out, had over 100 yards rushing. Most of them came, in the fourth quarter when Highland needed it the most. So credit to him. He's just a tough runner who's going to be kind of a focal point for their offense going forward. But yeah, it's Highland dominated the first half, and it wasn't even close how much better Highland was. They controlled the clock. They controlled, offensively. They looked really good defensively, kind of putting Eagle quarterback Jack Benson in some tough situations, making him roll out. Only problem was Eagles got this kid, Ian Duarte, who's this 5'8", 130-pound receiver who runs like Usain Bolt up the field. And all of that happened is Eagle just kept targeting him on weird little, slants and short 5-yard crossing routes. But because he's playing out of the slot, Highland's got to put a linebacker or sometimes a safety on him. And it's these guys who aren't used to covering dudes as fast as Duarte. And so he'd catch these 5-6 yard slants and then take them. He had one for 73 yards. And then he took legitimately just a reverse. Actually, I don't even know if it was a reverse. It was just a pitch. He took that 90 yards in the third quarter. The dude was unreal. I think he had another one that went for 70 yards to set up a touchdown run late in the half. That was the only problem for Highland's defense, is they couldn't stop Ian Duarte. And it just seemed oh my gosh, is one dude single-handedly going to beat Highland? And give them credit. I mean, they started kind of doing different things defensively. Nick Sorrell does a really good job with Highland's defense, and they kind of kept him in check a little bit in the second half. But we'll go to the fourth quarter. I mean, Ian Hershey hits a 52-yard field goal that was just holy cow. I mean, I think it gave Highland the lead. And then, with about 3.5 minutes left, Eagle was, right about the 30 or 40-yard line. And it looked like Highland, defensive end, Sloan Lamson, got a nice tackle for loss in the backfield. And then also I was already typing it out. All of a sudden I hear the Eagle section just go nuts. And Benson was in the end zone. And I didn't even see it until someone tweeted the video hours later. I was how in the heck did he score? And so that gives, Highland's offense 3 minutes. They had to start on their own 8 after a really good Eagle, kind of kickoff. And so you're looking at this Highland drive being this is for the season. Can, Gino and Jack Whitmer kind of orchestrate something? And the thing that was so crazy to me is they just did not care about the clock. I mean, Highland had two timeouts to use, but they ran 8 plays on that drive, and all 8 were run plays, which is not exactly the thing you're going to do when you're down in a state playoff game and need to go, 65 yards. They did not care about the clock. They did not really care about, a big play. They're we're just going to keep getting 8 yards. They're playing, a coverage that we can run the ball on. We're just going to run for 8 or 9 yards up the middle, 10 yards up the middle, 12 yards up the middle. And the whole thing is we just need to get to the 25, 28 yard line, because we're fine if we have a 40-yard field goal to win it. And that's just the craziest thing ever for a high school game. Be yeah, we just need a 40-yard field goal to win it. And they trusted Ian Hershey. They iced him a couple times. He fell on his butt. The Eagle section was, ripping him and yelling at him. He gets up, starts, egging them on to, yell louder. And then he drills a 40-yarder that would have been good from about 65. And it was just kind of pandemonium. It was so cool to see, just everything that Highland had to do to win that game. And just kind of did it in such an unconventional way. But yeah, I mean, a ton of props to everyone over at Highland. I mean, it was one of the cooler high school games I've been to.
Yeah, this Highland team, this is kind of cliched, but they really do seem like a team of destiny, right? They've pulled 2 games out of the fire, on the road 2 weeks in a row. The revenge tour, you talked about it. Now they're going to get Rigby, one of their 2 losses in the regular season. They already knocked off Rocky Mountain, who handed them the other loss. This is, I mean, if we're writing a Hollywood script, I mean, this is pretty much. And it wasn't all good news for Highland last week. I'm sure you saw this on social media as I did. It was really, heart-wrenching news to hear about Caleb DeMuzio, former Highland running back who graduated last year, was off serving an LDS mission and was sent home. He was diagnosed with testicular cancer and is fighting that battle now too. So this is a Highland team that, they had a freshman player that has been in the hospital all season dealing with a medical condition as well. And so you feel like, it's a family of players.
Yeah.
That have really bonded together, and they're kind of rallying together when it matters most.
Yeah, no, it's a really cool family atmosphere they've got going. And you're saying the Hollywood script of having to beat Rocky Mountain and then having to beat Eagle on a last second field goal and all the stuff, the outside circumstances that they're playing for and things like that. I mean, it really does feel like kind of this team of destiny thing.
Yeah, and our thoughts are certainly with the DeMuzio family. Yeah. And, it was so fun to watch Caleb play football really for 3 years as Highland's main running back.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a stud. So hopefully he recovers. Yeah. So Highland and Rigby, here's the rematch. Now, the first game wasn't like particularly close, right? Rigby kind of asserted themselves early and pulled away. What happens in this rematch, Jordan?
That's what I don't know. I haven't seen Rigby enough, but just from watching last year's game and, reading about the game they played, it's how do you keep Tiger Adolfo in check? And I think that was one of the things that Rigby was kind of able to do against Highland that first matchup is they, ran quick stuff that didn't allow Highland's, great front seven to get to him. I mean, you saw that game. I mean, what are the keys in stopping Rigby's offense? I mean, the other thing too is Rigby's got probably the best offensive line in the country, or the state. Ooh,
don't sell them short. They probably think they got the best line.
Probably, yeah. And so it's one of those things where if he's protected, that's not a dude I want with time. But what do you think is the keys of stopping that Rigby offense?
See, now I think the key is you do want to keep him in the pocket. Where Tiger Adolfo has really beaten teams this year is when the play breaks down and he's able to take off and scramble. If you keep him in the pocket, he's committed to Weber State to go play quarterback in college. Yeah. He throws every pass with so much zip on it. It's almost like he's ready for college now, where the receiver's going to catch those all the time. But in high school, his guys aren't always catching those rocket balls that he's firing. So I would take my chances with Adolfo, keeping him in the pocket. Now, the one thing that Highland has going for them that Rigby doesn't is Rigby's kind of banged up right now. They've got a lot of injuries to a lot of guys. Adolfo, he dove into the end zone in triple overtime for Rigby to win that game. And there was questions about, did he get banged up on that play? The backup quarterback is also their best wide receiver, Taylor Freeman. He's out. He got suplexed by a Capital player where he literally was picked up and driven into the ground 2 weeks ago. He's not available. They've had some defensive guys that are back, but not 100%, but they're out there, gutting it out. So that's the one advantage Highland has. I think they have to control the ball, control the clock, like you said, not worry about the time necessarily, keep that Rigby offense off the field. And then defensively, I think you got to keep Adolfo in the pocket, which means that Highland defensive line, we know how good they are at rushing the passer, but more importantly, they have to keep their lane integrity to make sure he doesn't get outside the tackles.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of one of the differences too, like you're saying, is controlling the clock for Highland, making sure that Rigby's offense isn't on the field so much. And that's one of the things I think is the difference in where Highland is now versus where they were when they played Rigby before. Their running game is much better because of that 1-2 punch they've got right now. Actually, it's a 1-2-3 punch with Jack Whitmer, Eli Parrish, and Jackson Riddle. It makes things so much tougher for an opposing defense when you don't know who's getting the ball. I mean, you can line up on 1st and 10, and Highland's constantly switching out Riddle and Parrish. And so you've always got to pay attention to who's in the backfield. And then, knowing that Jack Whitmer can take off at any point and kind of get 12 yards. That's, I think, where Highland has improved the most to me on offense in the last 5-6 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. That championship game will be Friday night. It is Highland against Rigby for the 5A title, a rematch of a regular season game that took place earlier this year. And that game will kick off at 8:15 on Friday night. Jordan, I feel pretty confident saying this. You and I have both been in Holt Arena a lot this year for college games and high school games. I think for the first time this year, Holt Arena might be sold out Friday night.
Yeah, I've been talking to a bunch of people, and I'm like, well, this will probably be the most people I've ever seen in there. Sold out seems like a stretch, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe one side sold out. I don't know. This is the other thing. I've never seen it sold out. It's like I don't know what that even looks like, or how many people can come to these games. But if it's even close to sold out, I would be really impressed.
I don't. Yeah, I agree. It's probably a little hyperbole to say it's going to be sold out. I think it seats 10,000 people.
I think it's like 12.
Or yeah, it might be 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen it sold out. In terms of Idaho State University, the closest they've come to selling out was 2 years ago when the Idaho Vandals came to play. And it was the first time they'd played in 20 years or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the game on Saturday. Which has more fans, Idaho State, or Highland Rigby?
Oh, it's not even close. Highland Rigby will have double the fans. It won't even be close. I'm pretty confident in that one.
It's going to be so anticlimactic. You're covering these great championships, and then Saturday you gotta go watch the Vandals and Bengals.
Yeah, on Friday night it'll be 8:15. We'll get home at 11, finish writing at 2, and then got to wake up and go to Idaho State, Idaho. Yeah, but there are people who would probably get up at 8 in the morning the next day so they can go tailgate. And so
for sure,
those people I commend.
Yes, no doubt. It's going to be a busy weekend of football in Holt Arena. The other championship game in District 5 features the West Side Pirates at the 2A level. They will play on Thursday night in Holt Arena, kicking off at 9:00 against Firth. Now, this is an interesting game because it's a rematch of last year's championship. Mm-hmm. It's also a rematch of the season opener, which West Side won 26-20 in overtime. Really, the only time this year West Side has really been challenged.
100%. And I think kind of the crazy thing, though, from that is I feel like is the last 5 weeks, West Side has only gotten better, and it seems like Firth has only gotten worse. And so I remember after that first game, there were West Side coaches being like, that Firth team is legit. I mean, they are big, they are physical, they can push you back a little bit. And that was something that really changed from that state title game a year ago, which West Side, I mean, it was one of the state title games are not supposed to be won by 40 points like that. And West Side just made it look like it was, they were playing a 1A D2 team. And then you come into this season and people were like, wow, this is a different Firth team. I mean, they've got a shot at upending West's Side if everything goes well. And then Firth these last couple of weeks have shown nothing that would really make you super confident in them. They lost to North Fremont the last week of the season. They've needed basically a Hail Mary to beat Declo in the quarterfinals. They did come back and beat North Fremont last week to get in. But I mean, I just don't see a team that can beat West Side, that can upend, a 2-time defending state champions, that can, halt a 32 game winning streak. That I just haven't seen it yet from Firth, and got to watch them a little bit when they were in Holt Arena. I would be very, very surprised if this was less than a 2-score game.
Yeah, even their playoff opener against Aberdeen, it was a tight game, midway through the third quarter, and then finally they got an avalanche of points to score there. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't see it. I don't see how West Side gets tripped up. They come into this game with a 31 game winning streak. It's the best in the state of Idaho. And second place isn't particularly close. At this point,
I was like, what's second? 6?
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah. So yeah, West Side is so talented. Their defense is playing so well right now. They're taking the ball away. They're getting 2 to 3 takeaways, every single game. It's just insane to think about. And you can pretty much guarantee anytime they get a takeaway, they're going up top to Bryler Shirtliff, and nobody has been able to stop him yet. And it's not like it's just, hey, we're going to throw it 60 yards to Shirtliff. It's like, hey, run a 15-yard dig route. Yeah. And then seriously, nobody's able to, and then he does the rest. He is such a physical specimen. I haven't seen anybody in 2A that's able to match up with him yet.
No, not even close. And then they can kind of counteract that with this 3-headed monster at running back with Cage Brokens, Parker Henderson, and Moser back there. And so they've got just so many weapons to beat you. And the other thing too is like West Side, aside from that first game, hasn't had any scares, which means, they're coming into the state championship game probably with a ton of plays, not necessarily trick plays, but stuff they probably didn't want to put on film, and they didn't have to. And so now you're coming in with a full arsenal into this state title game. And that would scare the heck out of me if I'm, a Firth fan.
Yeah, I was at the West Side game Friday night. They beat Bear Lake 47-8. Bear Lake had a nice season. We talked about it. Yeah. And again, for Bear Lake fans, you can't focus on the final game. You have to look at the season as a whole and the journey and sit back and go, you know what? We had a great season.
100%.
Bear Lake is a great team, but like West Side is like a historically great team.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that. Yeah. So I agree. I like West Side pretty large in that 2A championship game. So those are the two championship matchups. Teams from District 5, Highland and West Side both have great chances to bring home trophies. I think it's super exciting that there's going to be 4 games in Holtz Arena because teams from the East, quote unquote, playing each other, right? All these championship matchups are like teams from the East duking it out, which is super exciting.
There would have been 5 if not for a 2-point conversion in overtime. I mean, like that's how close it was.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So I guess for fans in East Idaho, they feel like they don't ever get the respect, right? All the fans in Boise say, East Idaho, whatever. You guys aren't that good.
People what do they call it? The state of Ada?
Yeah, right. The state of Ada. You're correct. But East Idaho really showed this year that, what? We do have the best football teams over here. So
yeah, no, I think that's been a big point for a lot of these teams is like, when you go play these teams in Boise, like winning does not just, solidify your program. It kind of solidifies the entire state of football and the region of East Idaho. And, I think that's kind of the cool part of the last couple of weeks is when teams are losing, they're like rooting for other East Idaho teams. And so that's kind of been fun to see.
Yeah, there's a camaraderie amongst the teams from the East for sure. The only team from the Treasure Valley that's even playing this weekend is Weezer.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about.
And that's, I think a lot of people are probably rooting for them. Just, Tom Harrison coaching former Pocatello and Snake River with all his East Idaho ties too.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right. Even the one team that made it from the Treasure Valley is led by an East Idaho guy.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah.
No doubt. Well, the East is very strong. Jordan, I'll see you at Holtz Arena Thursday night, Friday night. What else are you working on at the Journal this week?
That's pretty much it. I mean, I'm going out to Highland practice today, Wednesday, to go talk with Gino and a couple other guys. We'll have a big preview for that game in Friday's paper. And then, we'll be out at, the Holtz Arena 3 days in a row. West Side game on Thursday, Highland game on Friday, Idaho State game on Saturday. So it'll be a busy next 3 days. And so it'll be fun though. Might have to get a permanent parking spot at Holtz Arena after this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, they should give you your own suite or something so you can just crash there.
I just want the key to the little, the drink fountain thing. Like I just need a soda or something after these games. Actually, I'll probably need an energy drink or a coffee by the time some of these kick off. Maybe a nap. I don't know.
Yeah, no doubt. 9:00 Thursday night. That's going to be a fun one for sure. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So thanks for tuning into the final edition of the Southeast Idaho Prepcast. Again, friendly reminder, we're going to take next week off because of the Thanksgiving holiday. And then when we come back, it's going to be the East Idaho Prepcast where we're talking about districts 5 and 6 together, all under one umbrella. For Jordan Kaye, I'm Brandon Baney. Enjoy the games this weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.